Hello all! Something different about this video. That's right, for the first time in about, I don't know how many months, we've actually been able to get to a Friday on the channel known by you all as Film Review Friday. So yeah, as you'll all be aware of, this past week, because of it's been Halloween and that lot, I've been celebrating it by doing each day a different sort of like Halloween themed-esque sort of like horror movie film reviews. And yesterday I said about doing today like an actual sort of like horror movie sort of thing, where it's like based on like paranormal and psychological stuff. So that's what I'm going to do today. So there are tons of movies out there I could do, like billions, and I've already done a lot of them. For example, I've done like Quiet Place, Hereditary, Midsummer. I've done loads, but there has been one which I still haven't done, which is quite famous for taking elements from the found footage genre, and in this film it's quite like typical of a horror movie. It's quite typical of a thriller, and to be honest, right, the original is only the best one. So today I thought we'd go over Paranormal Activity, as it's a sort of ghost haunting sort of psychological horror, and I think it's perfect to end off this sort of week's Halloween review week. So, Paranormal Activity, what an amazing film, especially considering how the sequels just make a decline in future. The original today still remains one of the most like climactic films ever. Like, you have to watch the entire thing to wait to get through to the very end where the main scare occurs, because there's like jumpy bits at the end, but the real scare, the real kicker is at the very end. And I know it's at the very end because when I first watched it, it was the only bit I jumped at the very end, where if you will watch Paranormal Activity, you will know exactly what I'm on about, because the original has probably, it's one of the best endings in any horror movie. I know the sequels are all a bit like garbage for horror and that lot. Like The Ghost Dimension, what an awful movie. We'll get into that some other time if you want. Let me know in the comments. But Paranormal Activity, the original, one of the best endings anyone could ever watch. Spoiler alert, I'm going to say what happens in this. I apologise, I know, against movie law, but I'm going to say it. So spoiler alert, so if you haven't seen Paranormal Activity, switch off the video now, come back to it a bit later. But if you have seen it, then you'll know what I'm on about. So, at the end of Paranormal Activity, we've been following this couple, Mika and his girlfriend, who's like the main character in the film. And what happens is, throughout the film, they start like thinking their house is possessed, and that, more importantly, the girlfriend is like being possessed. And each night she gets up out of bed and does weird things, and it progresses to get more violent each time she goes. Like one night she wakes up and there's been like bite marks on her arm, and she doesn't know how they got there. But it eventually climaxes to them two sleeping in the bed, because Mika sets up a camera in his bedroom to try and catch what happens. And it ends with the girlfriend getting up out of bed, walking out with her eyes shut, not knowing what's going on. She walks downstairs, and then a few seconds later, all the audience hear is Mika, Mika. She screams his name, so he gets out of bed and runs, only for us as the audience to then hear like a blunt object being hit over something, and then it's silent for ages. And the next part is probably the scariest moment of the film, because out of nowhere Mika's body just flies at the camera like the speed of light, and it just comes out of nowhere, and then the camera gets hit and you're on the ground and you're like, what's going on? And then all you see is the girlfriend with an evil smile on her face. And it is honestly one of the best endings to a film I have watched in a long old time. It's so beautifully done, the original, that it's just, compared to the sequels, it just shows how much of a decline this series has been on, because they had potential for such a great like film series, and unfortunately the original is the only real one that has any sort of scares to it. So yeah, I think that's really all I've got to say about it. I mean, there's a few moments in it where you question why they do that. For example, there's one moment where the girlfriend suggests they just leave the house, they go away, and Mika's like, no, let's mess around, let's get out a Ouija board, let's taunt the ghost, let's taunt this evil entity that's clearly dangerous and can clearly hurt you, and they sort of just decide to stay in the house, which eventually leads to them both, like, I don't know, dying in the end. I don't know what happens to her. I know Mika dies, but she doesn't really. I don't know. But yeah, apart from that, there's not really anything else I can really say that's bad about the movie. The only like real thing that like they make stupid decisions, but then again, it's like a found footage film. You're bound to see characters that aren't like the brightest, because it's like a classic horror movie. It features characters that make really stupid decisions. So, yeah, I think we're going to leave it there. I'm going to get onto the ratings. For Paranormal Activity, the original, the first ever one, I'm going to give it a solid 8 out of 10. Because you can't give a 10 out of 10 to a movie that has faults. It's just, it doesn't work like that. However, I do feel like apart from all the sequels, the original still has potential to be classed as one of the greatest horror movies of all time. It's definitely up there in the top 50. So yeah, 8 out of 10 for Paranormal Activity. I hope you have all enjoyed this week-long event of Halloween-themed like horror movies. I certainly have, actually. I think it's been quite nice to have like a sort of change up and do like a week-long event. I don't think I've done one of these since like Avengers Endgame came out, so it's been a while. It's been since April, so it's been a few months now. So yeah, I think it's done pretty well this entire week, and I hope you all have enjoyed it. Yeah, so I will probably see you all next Friday with a brand new review. Or I might just continue doing some more like special events along the way. I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead yet, but I will definitely all try to see you next Friday when I do my next review on whatever that might be. But until then, I've been Connor. This has been Film Review Friday on a week-long Halloween-themed event extravaganza. I hope you all have enjoyed. I will see you when I see you. But until then, goodbye!